Okay, so sorry about the break. Before the break happened, we were talking about the tips for the applicants and how to catch the attention of a recruiter. So right now, speaking about writing your CV and cover letter, and then I will also cover going through the interview process, the things you must know before you go through the interview process. Now, like I said before, the purpose of your CV is to inform your employer about your education, your work experience, your skills, and your interests, to sell these qualities to persuade the employer to invite you to an interview. Now, your CV is your CV the end of the application process, as you must know. It's also it has to also extend to you getting an interview, you doing the interview well before you can then get the job. Now, so when should a CV be used? First of all, not every application requires a CV. So your CV should only be used when an employer asks for an application in that format, or when an employer states applied to in an email, or when making speculative applications in cases where you don't know if the company is recruiting, but you'd like to try anyway. Now, matching up your CV with the position or the company. Like I said earlier, CVs are not one size fits all. You need to tailor your CV to each position you're applying for. Research the company. Do they have a mission statement? Do they have core values? What would they be looking for in you? Who works there at the moment? What are they passionate about? All of these things are things that have to inform your CV when you're writing it or when you're tailoring it to the position that the company is looking for, right? Now, after you've done that, there are four main things that an employer will look at in your CV: work experience, education, specific skills, and in some cases, leisure interests. The work experience is being looked into to see your ability to get on with people, ability to meet deadlines. When you are putting those bullet place that you have worked, all of these things have to be covered because people work in teams, and most workplaces are like a pressure cooker. Can you survive? And lastly, can you actually meet deadlines? Now, education covers your ability to think clearly, analyze and assess information, draw conclusions, and work independently or do research. This explains why many employers say they are looking that came out with a first class, second class upper, or a first class degree. Now, as if you are someone who has a second class lower and below, you need to work hard to make your education speak for you. And people who have second class lower and below are people who need more than ever to have relevant work experience, because since your education will not convince the recruiter, your work experience needs to be the one to tell them that, look, despite the fact that this was my result, I have managed to work and gather all of this experience, and now I've managed to boost my education and boost my this role for you. Now, skills. Skills cover things, skills, foreign languages, artistic skills, really depending on which position you're trying to apply for. Now, leisure and interest. A lot of people think that you just write reading, writing, hanging out with friends, but your interests have to project your ability to plan, organize, to cooperate with others, to compete, to lead. So if you like chess, obviously you are like a very competitive person. So if the role that competitive person, that would be a really great thing to add to your CV. Ability to plan and organize is someone who is, for instance, very social, organizing social meetup with friends. Cooperate with others is look at games that require teamwork. Are those the kind of games you need to play? If the role is a business-minded role and you are really great, that would be something that would be nice to include in your CV. Right? So those four things should prove your ability. Now, the content of your CV. The CV can be as short or as long as you want it to be, as long as it only contains the relevant information that an employer needs. Now, the header part of your CV should just have your name, your address, your phone number, and a professional email address. A website or an online portfolio, in case of people who are designers or programmers, you can add that. But your sex is not important, and your date of birth is not important, except in cases where the role that you are asking that you're applying for is one where they said no more than years of age or no more than 35 years of age. In that instance, you need to indicate to them that, oh, look, I'm not more than this age. That's why you include your date of birth. Else, in your basic CV that you're sending to a role where there is no age restriction, your date of birth and your gender are not necessary, because this is mostly a deterrent for employers. A lot of people would rather hire males than females and not just look at the qualifications. So if you just put your qualifications on your CV, you are giving yourself a fighting chance no matter what gender you are. Now, employment. Your employment history should be chronological. That's in date order, starting with the most recent to the least recent. And again, this is worth repeating over and over. Relevant experience first, past experience after, if all the experience you have are not relevant to that particular position. If you've worked as an editor all your life and you're applying for an editorial position, you can leave your employment as just editorial employment, editorial experience. All of it can be listed there. But if during the process of your life you work as an editor, then as a customer service agent, then later as a manager, then back to being an editor, you want to put those two editorial positions first. Then you now put the rest of your past experience beneath them. But in either way, you list them in date order from most recent to the least recent. And like I said, if you worked for a company or a popular company like Facebook, like Google, or depending on which country you are, the popular companies in your country, you need to make sure that the company name is the one in bold and not your position. Now, if the company is not as well known, then your position is the most important part. But if you work at Facebook, for instance, it doesn't matter what position you were there, the employer wants you. So you want Facebook to be the one that you are emphasizing on. I have worked at Facebook. That's what you want to emphasize upon. Now, education and qualifications. This is also chronological. You start from the most recent to the least recent. In a job research, you should mention the relevant modules in school. And if your final year project, for instance, is relevant to the you're applying for, you should definitely include it in your CV. Now, the grades. I always advise people that if you come out with a first class or a 2-1, you can actually get away with just writing BSc Computer Science. No need to put second class, because you're not doing yourself any favors. Include the years that you studied and include your grades if they're great. If they're not great, then just leave them out and just put the certificate that you achieved at the school. When you're listing your education history, please stop putting your primary school or your secondary school. You can just put your university. Everyone knows that you cannot get a university education if you do not go to secondary school, and frankly, it's unimportant. If you have a master's degree, then you can include your master's degree and your bachelor's degree. The remaining two are really they're not important. They just take up space on your CV and push it into more pages than it should be. Now, your skills. Focus on your value-added skills for that role. For instance, if you are working as for an editorial position, you can include attention to detail as part of your skill and explain attention to detail has helped you in a past position. Or if you are going as a designer, you would need to include something like Photoshop skills and tell them how you regularly used it in a previous position. So skills you should also put examples, real life examples, verifiable examples. So honesty is key as part of the explanation, and the explanation should not be more than one or two, just to indicate that, I really did apply this skill in my past positions. Now, interests. Your interests, like I said, should show that they should add to your skills. They are not just interests that you don't just add hobbies just for hobby's sake. You can just put reading, writing. If you're applying for a position that needs more of analysis, you saying that you like to write is not doing anything for your application. So maybe put things that require numbers. Like if you like to play Sudoku. Sudoku is a thing that goes well with an analysis position. Chess and all of the Monopoly if you're applying for a business development So you need to be able to tie your hobbies and interests into the position. And most of all, when you are writing CV, you need to use action verbs to describe whatever it is you've done. Verbs like instructed, analyzed, produced, designed, administered, formulated, solved, took, these words project responsibility, leadership, and confidence using them in your CV. Now, like I said, I talked about your interests and activities already. So no generic interest. All of those things indicate to your recruiter that you did not bother to try to tailor your application to the role that they advertised. Right? So the presentation of your CV. Now, the first visual impression is important. Standard CVs use A4. Don't print your CV on double sides of the paper, and try to keep it to 2 pages so that the recruiter doesn't have much to go through. Remember, they don't have time, and the shorter and more impactful it is, the better. Check your spelling, use bullet points, and don't use too many bullet points. A maximum of 5 bullet points for each work experience will suffice. And for education, a maximum of 2 bullet points. And if you want to make emphasis on words, you can use the bold font. But it's also important to use it in moderation so you don't turn off the person who's reading your CV. Now, formatting is important to use consistent formatting. Your font size should neither be too small nor too big. Focus a lot on accomplishments. Short sentences that are clear and straight to the point, and consider the necessary to tailor your CV to the job or to the company, because there is a different audience for every job role that you're applying for. References. Well, references are fast going out of fashion, except for jobs where they really do need references. Ideally, your references should be 1 academic and 1 manager if you're a fresh graduate. And if you're someone who's worked extensively, 2 people who have overseen your work positions. Now, you have to ask permission from them before you include them as your reference. So if that company does call them, they will be able to say, okay, yeah, we did work with this person. And if you don't have references, you can just leave the entire reference section totally. References available on request is great, but it really just, it really just spills your CV over onto another page, or just includes spaces that are not necessary. Cover letters. Never send a naked CV. When you're sending your CV in a mail, please put a subject and write a short letter in the body. Your cover letter does not replace that short letter in the body. And also accompany your CV with a cover letter. A cover letter is basically a summary of your entire CV, as well as your interest in the organization, what you can do for them. So there are 2 kinds of cover letters: the speculative letter and the letter of application. Speculative in that the company has not advertised a position, but you are hoping that they have one for you. And the one for application means you are using this cover letter to apply for a role. Each of these motives has to be indicated in the letter, so the company knows what kind of letter that you're writing. And ideally, it should be indicated in the first paragraph. Also, your cover letter should not include more than 3 really short paragraphs. Opening paragraph is why you're writing. Second paragraph should show your knowledge of the employer and highlight your skills. And paragraph 3 should refer to your CV and your availability to start the job. Usually you can write able to start the job. I have to give 2 weeks notice to my previous employer. It indicates to the person you are writing to that you are considerate, and you don't just want to leave the person that you currently work for in the lurch. So yeah, so when you are applying in writing, use 1 side of A4, and your motivation for the job should also kind of be included, your background, skills, experience, and you have to make sure that you match up with the job description. Now, where do you find jobs? Jobs are typically advertised in newspapers and online jobs. PushCV.com/jobs has a list of all the most recent jobs that we are currently recruiting for, and you can see them there. Now, someone's asking if it's relevant to include your religion on your CV. No, it's not relevant to include your religion on your CV because it's illegal for someone to deny you employment based on your religion. So you shouldn't include your religion on your CV. Mostly, your name gives away your religion. And that's first. But secondly, people who include Christianity or Islam on their CV give the employer leeway to reject their application based on religion or accept it based on religion. That's not legal or particularly helpful to anybody. When applying for a job, it's important to to angle for a level playing field. So you can exclude your religion, like I said, you can exclude your state of origin. The most important thing in your job application is your location, where you live, right? Can you make it to the job on time and stuff like that? So your date of birth is not important, except people are saying, okay, not more than 26 years old. In cases of in cases of graduate training programs, and not more than 35 in cases where the company has strict age restrictions. All right, so yeah, interviewing processes. Now, interviewing is not particularly a rigorous process when you know the things to do, and the things to do are really basic. You have to speak clearly when you're talking to your interviewer, answer all their questions, but the most important thing that you need to do for an interview is to dress properly. You cannot attend an interview. That's why it's important to research the company. You dress based on the company culture. Like for us, our company culture is majorly business casual. And if someone walked into an interview here at PushCV wearing a corporate t-shirt and a pair of jeans, the person would not be disqualified. But if you walked into an interview at Union Bank wearing a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, you probably would not get that interview. So you need to know exactly who you are interviewing with and what their preferences are in that company. If most tech companies are okay with people dressing a lot more, leaning more casual than business, but orthodox companies are more business than casual. So your research needs to extend to that as well. Research the company culture. What do they want? What kind of dressing do they accept? Things like that. Now, and how early should you get to an interview? Don't get to an interview more than 15 minutes earlier than the interview time, because then you start to put pressure on the person who invited you for an interview. The interviewer's office is not your house, so don't get there 30 minutes or an hour early because you want to go and wait in their office. It's not proper, right? Because you sitting down there waiting for the interviewing time makes it very uncomfortable for the person who's supposed to interview you, who might actually be busy. So if your interview is for 8, get there for 7:45. If your interview for 1, get there for 12:45. And one thing that you need to do at the end of an interview is to ask the interviewer questions. You need to show that you have an innate knowledge of their company. Ask them a question about the company, about the job role, about the questions that they ask you, about when you would hear back from them. So don't be a passive participant in the interview, be an active participant in the interview so that the person that is interviewing you knows that, look, you are someone who would be very proactive when you are hired or if you are hired. All of those things give indications to the interviewer that the person speaking to knows exactly what they want and knows how to go and get it. So yeah, should you ask for feedback in an interview? Absolutely. When will I hear back from you? Will it via email or via phone? Now, if you asked you that they said they will get back to you, you can send a gentle reminder email, but avoid pestering your recruiters, right? If the person says we'll get back to you in 2 weeks, you have to wait for 2 weeks before you email the person. Like, come on. People that do the next day things are usually, they appear desperate and they almost always get themselves out of the running, like deservedly or undeservedly. So just wait for those 2 weeks to elapse. If you don't get the message, send them a gentle reminder. If they don't respond, wait for another week because hiring decisions sometimes take longer than you think, and the interviewer might have thought, oh, we'll make a decision in 2 weeks, but it can extend to 4 weeks, right? So you cannot really hurry a company, but at the same time, you need to still appear interested. So timely, but very gentle and non-pressuring reminders, right? Okay, so I think that I've majorly covered it. Please send it to the YouTube live chat while I look through your question submissions to see ones that require the answers. Okay, how do you set up your CV when considering a slightly different career path? Well, if you're considering a different career path, the first thing that I would advise you to do is to eliminate completely the personal summary from your CV. A lot of people say I'm an accountant with 9 years of experience, but if you were an accountant who is now looking for a job as a project manager, you're telling people that you have 9 years of accounting experience is not doing you any favors. So when you're trying to consider a slightly different career path, your CV has to project, I have this experience, but I am willing to learn. So your CV has to be like work experience and achievements. You have to, and your cover letter is what will do this job for you, really. Your CV will tell the employer, oh, this person has accounting experience. But under those bullet points on your CV, you also have to include the fact that you have done things that slightly lean towards the new role that you want, and in your cover letter, really go into why you are considering a different career path and what you think you can do if you're hired in that role that is slightly different from your previous experience, right? So difference between a CV and a resume. The difference between a CV and a resume is length, basic length. It's basically the length. One is shorter and one is longer. The resume is much shorter. So what we have here is a curriculum vitae. One with more details about yourself, but not too much, because that also turns off the recruiters. Now, I'm American, but I've lived and worked abroad for over 10 years. How do I make that experience more appealing and not terrifying to employers? That relies so on used in your CV. Now, if the role that you're applying to is below the recruiter's pay rate, then you need to research what role you're applying for, right? First of all, and use words that are kind of conciliatory and not overly. At this point, I would say you need to like tamp down your confidence level a little if you want to make the experience not terrifying to employers. You have to include points where you learn from people, include points where people were the ones who taught you what you know right now, include points where you worked with teams. All of those things kind of ameliorate the effect of you being a super experienced, super knowledgeable person to the recruiter. Now, what should come first, educational background or past work experience? If you have any relevant past work experience whatsoever, come first. And if you don't, as a fresh graduate, then you want your educational experience to come first. It's always it's always depending on how long you've been in the workspace. If you've worked for 2 years, even 1 year, then your work experience should absolutely come first. But if you've not worked at all, fresh out of university, you want your education to come up first. So that's how it works for people who have zero work experience. When you're a student and you have no experience, same thing, put your educational background first. Now, okay. So it looks like I've answered most of the questions that I sent in. So if you have any new ones, why don't I get a call for interview after submitting insert job? It's mostly maybe due to or some of the errors that I've already mentioned during the course of the webinar. So what I would do is send a PowerPoint presentation that I use here to the Shilit Africa people, and they can share it with people who are willing to use them, and maybe it can help you tailor your CV more to a recruiter's. And you also need to make sure that you are what's it called, doing research on the companies. A lot of people drop the ball on the research for the company. We always believe that the CV that is good for Shell is good for CV is good for, it doesn't work that way. They are vastly different companies, and your CVs need to reflect that. So if you are someone that needs to know how to compose it, first thing you need to know is that a cover letter cannot be long. It's just 3 parts. You need to know the 3 major things that should be in them, and I already explained that earlier. So those are the key things. The job search process is easier when you have all of these tools at your disposal already, and you know what employers look out for in your CV. So that's basically it. So I really want to say thank you to the Lead Africa community for having me here. I'm Odunayo Eweniyi again from PushCV, and you should definitely in the community. It does great things for girls and women all over the world. So visit leadsafrica.org/join to become a part of the community. Like I've been even a little helpful to you over there. And if you have any questions, you can forward it to them, and I'll be sure. Thank you. Bye.